Wanna take a look inside?
Still swords.
Break the limits.
Watch your back. Magic lies in the mind.
So hello everyone, today we the group 3 we're going to discuss about the lesson 11 in understanding the self, which is the digital self and the social self. So let's begin. Before we start, please let me introduce myself first. I am Anne Filamor from 1BS Accountancy C, and I would be the first reporter of our group. Alright, so now we're going to learn about the digital self, the development and expression of the self and identity in social networking sites. So first, when you heard the word digital, what comes first in your mind? Well, I guess we have the same thought. The first thing that came up into our mind are technologies, social media platforms, graphics, arts, photos, and anything that is related to social networking sites. Kasi diba, from the word nga, digital, it is of relating to or utilizing devices constructed or working by the methods or principles of electronics. That is digital. However, how about if we incorporate the word self? We can say digital self. So what really means a digital self? Okay, from the presentation, digital self is the persona you use when you're online. That means that our digital self is our personality when we are on the line using social media platforms such that Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp, and many more. What personality we depict through using those apps determine our digital self. Kumbaga, our digital self is based upon how we behave online. It is also stated here that some people maintain one or more online identities that are distinct from their real-world selves. Others have been single online self that's more or less the same as the one they inhabit in the real world. Yes, tama no, may mga tao talaga na masyashock ka na lang pag na-meet mo sila in person kasi their personality in social media is totally different from the real world. Di ba may mga kakilala tayo? For example, sa FB friends natin. Di ba sa Facebook, ang ingay-ingay niya, post dito, post doon, na kung mga ano-anong emote. But in person naman, mahiyain naman pala. That is because sometimes we tend to be more confident online than in person. Mas nakakaramdam tayo ng comfort doon. However, may mga tao din naman na na-maintain nila yung personality nila both online and offline. But that may be good or bad thing. So let's now proceed. Next is adolescence and social networking sites. Do you remember this picture? This is the 8 stages of human development by Erickson. This is for illustration only, and we are going to focus only in the 5th stage of development, which is the adolescence. So what is adolescence? Adolescence is the period of physical, cognitive, emotional changes the individuals undergo as they navigate from childhood to adulthood. These are persons who ages 10 to 19 years old. At that age, they experience physical changes in muscles and body structure, cognitive change, where they can formulate their own idea and opinion, and emotional change, where they know how to filter and understand their emotions. This time, identity construction of an autonomous self is happened. So, to adapt these changes, they need some personal space. Therefore, they tend to use social networking sites to provide the need personal space and avenue for identity construction. through anonymity, connectivity, and interactivity. Example of SNS, as I mentioned earlier, are Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, WhatsApp, and many more. The next is the three types of adolescent self-esteem, which are the self-concept, personal self-esteem, and collective self-esteem. The first is the self-concept. It is how we perceive ourselves as a unique individual. Paano natin i-specify yung sarili natin? It embodies the answer to the question, who am I? Second is personal self-esteem. It is the individual's subjective evaluation of their own worth. It encompasses beliefs about oneself. Like, for example, I am in love, I am worthy, as well as emotional states such as triumph, despair, pride, and shame. Collective self-esteem, on the other hand, describes that aspect of an individual's self-image that stems from how the individual interacts the others and the groups that our individual is part of. It also refers to the feelings and evaluations of the worthiness of social groups such as racial, ethnic, or work group of which one is a member.
Adolescent self-esteem is affected by their perceived evaluation of other people about them. They tend to overestimate the extent to which other people evaluate them. As a consequence, they become preoccupied with how they present themselves. They package themselves by hiding their undesirable features and by highlighting their pleasant ones. Thus, when given good feedback, they feel better about themselves. Social affiliation and communication are essential factors in adolescent self-esteem. Adolescents tend to feel good about them when they are happy with their group membership and when their social support is available. SNS or social networking sites serve as the avenue for these social needs.
So, in this topic, we are going to discuss about the identity construction in Facebook. So, identity construction, it is also called or known as identity formation or identity development. What is identity construction? It is a complex process in which humans develop a clear and unique view of themselves and of their identity. So, self-concept, personality development, and values are all closely related to identity formation. So, how would you construct your identity? Identity is how we make sense of ourselves. We construct our own identities through experiences, emotions, connections, and rejections. Identities are constantly changing. The most powerful way to construct an identity is by identifying against other people. What are the two concepts of identity construction? First, we have personal online identity construction, and second, we have social online identity construction. What is the difference between the two? Personal identity refers personality attributes of an individual which are not shared with other people, or simply as it is a sense of who one is, such as individual traits like you are a good-looking person, you are an optimistic, creative, cheerful, or you are curvy or slim. And in hobbies like reading, cooking, fishing, or in talents like singing, dancing, or theater arts, and also sports like cycling, football, basketball, and etc. While the social identity It is an aspect of individual self-concept that stems from their knowledge of their membership with a certain social group. Like, for example, nationality, ethnicity, religion, gender, and social roles. Like, if you are white, then your race is white, or your ethnicity is a Filipino. And social class, like for example, you came from a poor family, or your worldview or your religion is Christian. Those are the examples of social identity. So let's proceed to Facebook use. We all know that Mark Zuckerberg is the founder of Facebook in the year 2004. It was originally designed only for Harvard University students. But as the demand and popularity for social media networks grew throughout the world, Facebook creators expanded their networks to include everyone. Facebook, as a controlled setting, becomes a venue for the college students to engage in their identity construction. It presented themselves through wall posts, photos, and profiles in such a way they convey their image. So the real advantage of Facebook is that it's a real-time social networking site. This makes it one of the best sources to stay updated with the latest news and information. Major news usually goes viral on Facebook, and most brands use it to announce important things regarding their products or services. So what are the disadvantages of Facebook? First is addiction. Spending time on Facebook can become addictive. Second, loss of productivity. So when we engage to Facebook, we somewhat realize that we are not that productive in the rest of the day. And malware and viruses. We know that there are things called hack on Facebooks. Our identity theft, or what we call posters, antisocial behavior, and relationship problems. That's why always remember this quote, or this famous quote, which is think before you click, so that you can always be safe in Facebook and you can prevent any kind of cyber crimes and issues, and also for your personal information to be secured. That's all for my report. Thank you for listening and God bless.
Hello everyone, I am Leo Manapol, and the next topic that we will be talking is all about Facebook as a platform to projecting needs and preferences. Facebook is one of the means to express the thoughts and perspectives as well as the normal self of an individual. It is a space for the participants to project the emotional needs and preferences, which mostly teenagers like us can relate, since Facebook become one of our companion when it comes to verbalizing our thoughts and feelings. Facebook serves as an externalization of an individual's thoughts and feelings, which can help them to reflect and reconstruct aspects of them. Facebook can be the way for someone to speak out that others can't, especially that most of the teenagers these days are prone to depression and anxiety. It will help others to not give up and fight for their dreams, and fight for every battles that they are facing, by reading some inspiring and motivational posts. Moreover, others depict their thoughts and feelings through posting photos or even adding music to it, which is a trend on Facebook currently. Because by doing this, they'll feel that they are not alone. They'll feel more happy, since they had the chance to express their emotions, and they'll feel more confident to themselves. Nowadays, teenagers like to post pictures together with their friends or their boyfriend or girlfriend more often rather than family pictures. It can be easily seen and concluded that most teenagers can be in their natural self when they are in their comfort zone or comfort environment. Therefore, Facebook is a means for freedom and self-support, mostly by the teenagers with projecting their emotional needs and preferences.
Hello everyone, I'm Kaye Beltran and today we're gonna discuss about
Creating space for self-revelation and assertion.
First, let us define. So what is self-revelation? Self-revelation is the revelation of one's own thoughts, feelings, and attitude. It is the self-disclosure or showing off your self-identity to the public. On the other hand, assertion is a declaration that is made empathetically, especially as part of an argument or as if it is to be understood as a statement of fact. It is your opinion about yourself. Social media has become a space for the disclosure of their personal information and their assertion of who they are or what they want others to see about them. Social media has become a space for us to express ourselves. It gave us the opportunity to establish a new identity online. It gave us the power to show people who we are, and most of the time we actually filter those things we post online.
Example situation. When I was still on first year and very active on Facebook, I would post pictures of myself going out with my friends and many people would see it. Maybe this person posted those pictures to show people that he or she is this friendly or that happy.
Well, who knows the intention? But this situation clearly showed how social media became a personal space for self-disclosure.
Facebook provides them their online personal space, which is an essential aspect in exploring their identities. They would point out that I had become different from who I was back in high school, someone who didn't have much of a social life but would rather go home straight from school.
Social media has a big impact in our lives because through SOCMED, we have created our virtual identity which affects our reality. We have changed in so many aspects, especially on how we socialize and how we present ourselves to the public.
Hello everyone, it's me again, Jaian. Next is creating virtual surrogate group. Have you ever belonged to a virtual group such as group chat or pages? Of course you did. These are called virtual community. Virtual communities are social aggregations that emerge from the net when enough people carry on those public discussions long enough, with sufficient human feeling to form webs of personal relationships in cyberspace. And one of these popular virtual communities is one that we have in our Facebook. Social media platforms such as Facebook offer members the opportunity to establish and join groups of people online. In that way, we create our virtual surrogate group. The individual's relationships somehow shape their identity construction by allowing their online social groups to define how they present themselves. This social construction of the self will be further facilitated by the gratification they receive from their online group and by their dissatisfaction with their on-ground affiliations. Sometimes we have crushes in our on-ground affiliations. Thus, we tend to build other friendships online to know other people and to have someone to talk to about ourselves. Thus, we tend to feel good, which help us construct our identity.
Good day everyone, I'm Fyca Alamis and I'm going to discuss the experimenting on the different identity. Experimenting on a different identity. The individuals explore and experiment on their identities by trying out different aspects of themselves in new roles. By creating multiple accounts, these adolescents are able to create their different selves coexisting in a virtual world. They could shift from one identity according to who they choose to be at a given time, with multiple Facebook accounts depicting different persona. The self is no longer deemed as unitary construct but fluid and plural identities. Experimenting on a different identity is most common to teenagers. Based on my experience, most of my friends have RP account on Facebook or role play account. They change their personal details such as age, name, gender, and even their profile pic. This means my friends use this account to assume or act a particular role.
Good day, I am Reane Herbes and I'm going to tackle managing impressions, positive self-presentation that is part of the lesson, the digital world. Before I start, here is a quote from Charles Cooley. We see ourselves reflected in the eyes of others. In my perspective means that whatever we do, people will always have their impressions of us. It may be positive or negative, but either way, we can always grow from this. We only need to accept the areas we need to improve. Once we start reflecting upon this, we realize that people do not see us the same way we see ourselves. For example, how you behave or what you show with these behaviors will make people form an image of you that you may not share. In this generation's cultural and technological climate, everyone uses some sort of social media. Social media allows users to express their personalities in unique ways, but the ability to create multiple accounts and curate the material on their profiles have given users an unprecedented opportunity to develop new persona. These new digital identities can ally or conflict with the user's real personalities. The real self is what you are, your attributes, your characteristics, and your personality. Your ideal self is what you feel you should be. Much of it is due to societal and environmental influences. From a societal standpoint, many of us are driven by competition, achievement, and status, hence the creation and portrayal of our ideal selves. The fact that on social media sites we consider our profiles to be representations of who we are, therefore, through interaction with the social medium, the real and ideal selves intersect, and the ideal self is at least partially actualized. In essence, our online selves represent our ideals and eliminate many of our other real components. Individuals depict happy and pleasant dispositions in their Facebook accounts. What we post or share on our social media represents our emotions, and it may vary in the context or emotion of the pictures. The purpose of sharing our life in the media world is to let other people know the events in our life, or it may just be to store memories and be able to look back at them anytime. We share with people our stories that may inspire them and news that will inform them, but some people tend to exaggerate their social media life in contrast with the reality. Showing only their socially desirable features, they construct their ideal selves in front of their audience. They prefer to only show the best in them and not be completely real with their virtual friends and audience. Most of us can relate to this, most especially adolescents. Before we post our pictures in our social media accounts, we first edit them or apply filters to look better. We hide the features that we are most insecure about, pimples, acne, blackheads, and even face, etc., just to avoid what we perceive to as the judgment of the audience. Their self-presentation via Facebook is more strategic compared to their on-ground self-projection. Social media has created an environment where users feel pressured to either lie or fabricate their physical and psychological identities to become more desirable. What we present as ourselves in the digital world build our sense of self and identity in other people's perspective. We construct what people think of us. The vulnerabilities of some social media users more generally can lead to a false Facebook self. They have more time to think of which aspects of their personalities or profile should be presented or which photos depict their best image. These pressures extend far beyond the dating world and into many other facets of social media interactions. We spend so much of our time beautifying our timeline to make it look more aesthetic, and what we aim for that is to make other people think that we live a perfect life, and if not perfect, then a better life. I like pictures where I look good and decent. It's not much about who I am within the photos, but more of how okay I look. This is the standpoint of those people who hide and set aside their real selves and flaunt their ideal selves. Because who would want to expose unfitting reflections of their true selves? I guess nobody would want to. Adolescents tend to overestimate the extent to which other people watch and evaluate them. Whatever we post in our social media, may it be our real self or ideal self, people with no sense of acceptance and not open-minded still have the impressions or opinions on something when it doesn't align with their ideals. They think they are always on the lookout, thus they present their image as ideal as they can be. People will still judge anyway, so why not make our image more presentable than our reality, says the user. Social media effect creates a false sense of self and self-esteem through the use of likes, fans, comments, posts, etc. For many social media users, it is an esteem booster, which explains why so many people spend so much time on social media. The feedback that they got from other people becomes their basis for changing aspects of themselves or for hiding information. Some of us want to please the audience and hide components of our real selves just to enhance the exposure of our ideal selves. Truth hurts, lies hurts, everything hurts if the outcome is not what we expected it to be. We will only gain pain if we let other people's opinion matter. The social networking sites like Facebook can be a viable venue for identity construction. Here are some examples of social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, etc. Sometimes people would go beyond and download and use applications to gain more likes or followers just to fill up the void their real self is missing. When we look up in social media and see posts that have gone up to thousands of likes, we all then assume that that person is famous or a social butterfly. We then question ourselves, what makes him or her so special that many people follow her way of life? We just wish we have the life they're living, or somehow be like them. We construct our more ideal and likable selves to catch the eyes of the audience. Here are some factors that'll help us stay true to ourselves. First, stop comparing yourself to others. When you compare yourself to others, you are comparing yourself to the perception of what you think the person is. In reality, many people are presenting only their ideal selves online. Therefore, you are comparing yourself to an ideal figure, not a true representation. Second, authenticity is key. Stay true to your real self. Instead of creating an inflated, unrealistic version of yourself, examine who you are and your best attributes. Determine what makes you unique and focus your attention on enhancing yourself. Ask yourself this question: would you rather have 1,000 carbon copies of replicas or one authentic version of yourself? People like individuals who are relatable yet real. Do not be afraid to show who you really are. Third, align your real self with your ideal self. If you are portraying yourself as an ideal figure or with an ideal career, why not work towards those goals to achieve your ideal status? As we know, everything in life is worth doing takes time, effort, energy, and persistence. As a final point, if you're consistent and transparent in your online and offline persona, you have nothing to fear from exposure. Everything about your online persona should be reflective of your offline persona, such as your background, experience, education, and etc. Rather than focusing your attention and effort on creating an ideal online persona, use your time and effort to accomplish the goals that will align your real self with your ideal self. By doing so, you will ultimately become more fulfilled as you accomplish the goals that will lead to your path to self-actualization, and that is becoming the best you, the real you.
Hello, it's me again, and at this moment, I will discuss about so what's wrong with using social networking sites? not the use per se, but how it's used. It is not the usage of social networking sites itself, but how the people actually use it. It becomes unhealthy when it replaces reality.
When the people depend so much on it and it replaces the people's reality.
When it replaces on-ground social interactions. When the human touch or human interaction is being replaced with social media interactions. When virtual reality becomes the basis of social gratification, self-esteem, and identity.
When an individual bases his or her identity and self-esteem on social media or on how many likes does his post or his or her pictures have and how many views does his or her IG or FB stories or fleet got.
When the person is in constant monitoring of the self, for example, likes, photos, activity posts, and etc., and how unfair in comparison to others. When he or she is constantly checking his or her social media uploads to see how many likes does it have and compare his or herself to other people.
When the personal identity becomes dependent on virtual social identity.
When this happens, one can be very weak and have a diffused identity, can be very insecure and self-absorbed, and with very poor social-emotional skills. So you see, social networking sites in itself is not bad. What's bad is how almost of the people, if not all, use it. Almost all of the individuals who use social networking sites do filter what they upload on their social media accounts. They won't choose to upload their ugly faces or ugly personalities on their social media accounts. So, a friendly reminder to avoid those things I mentioned earlier, do not compare your behind the scenes to someone else's polished scrapbook. So that ends my discussion for today. Once again, this is me, Kaye Beltran, and see you again next time.
Good day everyone, I'm Fyca and Alamis. I'm going to discuss the social self and the self in a social agency. The social self. This part discusses the social and environmental factors that shape oneself. These included environmental systems, cultural orientations, and other social factors that play a crucial role to oneself. Social self refers to how we perceive ourselves in relation to others. The self and its social agency. Human development is largely influenced by membership in crucial social groups that shape various aspects of the self, from belief systems, values orientation, and behavior. At the beginning of the life, one already belongs to a social group, his or her family. It is the most pervading influential social group that impacts the self in its entire course of development. The views one holds about the world, values upheld in making choices and decisions, and the habits and persistent behavior one carries have been formed in the context of one's family and home environment. Next to family, schools and the general academic environment form a significant part of the social self. Worldviews expand as one gets exposed to more people in different social learning environments. Knowledge and social skills gained from mentors, relatives, and peers contribute to how the social self is harnessed. Aside from one's family and school environments, communities also shape one's social self to a large extent. The social self inevitably changes as one accommodates and eventually assimilates beliefs promoted by the society as he or she thinks, appreciates, and behaves according to the standards set by micro and macro systems. As you interact with family members, friends, and social media, have a meeting with a boss or co-worker, and talk to someone you are interested in dating, all of these moments and how we feel about ourselves during them make up our social self.
To start with, according to Sir Edward Burnett Tyler, therefore I quote, "Culture is the complex whole which includes knowledge, belief, law, art, moral, custom, and other capabilities and habits acquired by man as a member of society. This implies that culture is what was attained by being influenced as a member of society. To further understand the nature of culture and its influences on oneself, one of the models that illustrate how culture functions in relation to one's social self is the biological systems theory by Yuri Bronfenbrenner. Yuri Bronfenbrenner is a Russian-born American psychologist best known for having developed ecological systems theory. This theory looks at a child's development within the context of the systems of relationships that form his or her environment. His theory defines complex layers of environment, each having an effect on a child's development. This theory has recently been renamed bioecological systems theory to emphasize that a child's own biology is a primary environment fueling her development. The interaction between factors in the child's maturing biology, his immediate family and community environment, and the societal landscape fuels and steers his development. Changes or conflict in any one layer will ripple throughout other layers. To study a child's development, then, we must look not only at the child and her immediate environment, but also at the interaction of the larger environment as well. The microsystem. This is the layer closest to the child and contains the structure with which the child has direct contact. The microsystem encompasses the relationships and interactions a child has with their immediate surroundings. Structures in the microsystem include family, school, neighborhood, or childcare environments. At this level, relationships had impact in two directions, both away from the child and towards the child. For example, a child's parent may affect his beliefs and behavior. However, the child also affects the behavior and beliefs of the parent. Bronfenbrenner calls these bidirectional influences, and he shows how they occur among all levels of environment. The interactions of structures within a layer and interactions of structures between layers is key to this theory. At the microsystem level, bidirectional influences are strongest and have the greatest impact on the child. However, interactions at outer levels can still impact the inner structures. The mesosystem. This layer provides the connection between the structures of the child's microsystems. Examples: the connection between the child's teacher and his parents, between his church and his neighborhood, and etc. The exosystem. This layer defines the larger social system in which the child does not function directly. The structures in this layer impact the child's development by interacting with some structure in her microsystem. Parent workplace schedules or community-based family resources are examples of this system. The child may not be directly involved at this level, but he does feel the positive or negative force involved with the interaction with his own system. The macrosystem. This layer may be considered the outermost layer in the child's environment. While not being a specific framework, this layer is comprised of cultural values, customs, and laws. The effects of larger principles defined by the macrosystem have a cascading influence throughout the interactions of all other layers. For example, if it is the belief of the culture that parents should be solely responsible for raising their children, that culture is less likely to provide resources to help parents. This, in turn, affects the structure in which the parents function. The parents' ability or inability to carry out that responsibility towards their child within the context of the child's microsystem is likewise affected. The chronos system. This system encompasses the dimension of time as it relates to a child's environments. Elements within this system can be either external, such as the timing of a parent's death, or internal, such as the physiological changes that occur with the aging of a child. As children get older, they may react differently to environmental changes and may be more able to determine more how that change will influence them.
Good morning everyone, I'm Ivan Jake Flores, and today I'm gonna discuss about individualism and collectivism model. It's another model that highlights the impact of culture to the self. It is proposed by Hazel Marcus and Shinobu Katayama in 1991. According to the model, individualism as an orientation focuses on one's individual attributes and personal distinctiveness. People who are individualistic are observed to be competitive and self-reliant. So, individualism, maybe it emphasizes individual goals and the rights of the individual person. On the other hand, the collectivist orientation values relationships and harmony. People who are collectivistic prioritize interests to maintain healthy relationships. So, collectivism focuses on group goals, what is the best for the collective group and personal relationship. Next slide is the collectivism. Collectivism is motivated by group goals as a collectivist. And also the individualism, an individualist is motivated by personal rewards and benefits. Further example for individualism is when you support yourself financially and you do not depend on anyone else. So, example for collectivism is having a strong relationships within the families and friends. It is important in these societies and people may sacrifice their happiness or time for the benefit for you and for someone else. That would be all. Thank you.
Hello! A pleasant day to each and everyone. This is Angelina Jane G. Galanto from BS Accountancy C, your reporter for today. And now, for our last topic, we were going to tackle about I versus me. But before that, allow me to read this. One's behavior when he or she is alone differs from his or her behavior when he or she is with others. It means that there are some differences throughout the behavior of an individual when he or she is with others and as well as when he or she is alone. By this, it is considered as a social factor wherein the situation and the ambience of the environment will make an impact to an individual. According to Herbert Mead, 1934, there are two parts of the self, and these are the I and me. Let's begin with the word I. I. It is a subjective. It refers to your opinions of yourselves as a whole or how you see yourselves. When someone asks you about yourself, you usually start with the word I. Am I right? Like for example, I am Angie. I am 19 years old. I am a first-year college student. As a result, I am portraying myself with my own subjective point of view. And that is the essence of the word I. On the other hand, we have me. Me is an objective. Refers to the awareness of how others expect you to behave in a given situation or how others see you. A while ago, I said that it is how you see yourself, while me, it is how others see you. And by that, we can now already determine the differences between the two. Now, let's go back to ME topic. One of the example of ME is that if other people see someone as funny, the person will also see themselves as a funny person. It is the idea that once other people see the individual as something, the individual will see themselves as that thing as well. In short, I refers to the unsocialized self, and me refers to the socialized self according to Herbert Mead. Always remember, both of them has an important roles in our behavior and attitudes, which influences how we act and react in our daily lives. However, I do believe that one may take more over control and the other one in a certain situations. Once again, I, Angelina Jane G. Galanto, together with my group mates, saying thank you for watching and God bless.
Victory! Legendary!